And thank you all for taking time out of your day to be here for this practice. I'm really honored and grateful to share this time with you. For those of you who might not be on my email mailing list, I just shared the story that the universe making sure I'm not full of shit as I'm talking to you about pain gave me a real doozy of a back injury that I've been working with for the last week and a half. And just yesterday, I'm able to sit and be here and not in agony. So really been practicing in the trenches of intense pain. And I'm so grateful, though it's, pain is rough. There's no way about that. But there are gifts and ways we can find to work with ourselves that can be really life-giving. So as we start, before we get on the floor, I just want to say, one quality that we can bring to our pain, along with basic mindfulness, is I like the Sanskrit word Maitri, Maitri, which means courageous loving kindness. And I love implicit in that name that it means it's not always easy. It might take courage to bring kindness to something that's difficult to welcome. But that's part of what we're going to be working with. And in this lesson, we're not going to do a lot of physical movement in space. One of my dear friends and teachers, Russell Delman, said that the most important movement in the whole Feldenkrais repertoire is the movement of your attention. And that's what we're going to be moving a lot of today. This is a favorite lesson I love to come back to again and again, and I'm excited to share it with you. So before we get down on the floor, how many of you deal with pain? You can just raise your hand. Let's just scroll through and see. And the humorous joke is like, if you're not now, you probably will, because that's how it is, right? So yeah, let's practice bringing some great kindness to ourselves as we explore a little bit. So if you'd like, I want to invite you to find your way to lie on the floor. If that's accessible, if you need to lie on something else that's easier for you, that's fine. This is actually one of my favorite insomnia practices to do if I'm awake in the wee hours. So you can do this in bed, but if you can be on the floor, you'll get some nice feedback from the floor. So take a moment to make your way there, lying down on your back. I'm just watching for folks to get settled. So what I want to start with, just underlining, is that one of the beauties in the Feldenkrais approach is this non-aggression, that we're not forcing, we're not fighting what's happening. And there's a way in which force can close the heart. Physical force in our movement can also bring on a bracing and a protective mechanism that can actually make pain worse. So we're going to go for subtle, slow, gentle, and see what we might find with this not so common in the overculture approach to our bodies. So take a moment to settle in on your back. And I often like to start by inviting us to be generous with our weight, to just feel the weight of your head, the weight of each limb, the weight of your torso and your pelvis, and see if you can be generous in offering that over to what poet Fred Lamotte calls the famished gravity of the planet. Like we're feeding our weight. And as we do that, we can begin to really feel we're supported. And this is just such a foundational practice for me and people I work with, to keep coming back to feeling it's not just your body, your physical self, it's you in relationship with gravity and support and with the larger world. So as you settle in, I'd like to invite you to take a moment to bring attention to your breathing. Just spacious, no pressure. Enjoying this breathing in, breathing out. And we're going to start to open this up a little bit with the movement of our attention to include not only just inhale and exhale, but the turnaround phases of the breath. So where inhale starts to slide into the out breath, and where the out breath maybe even slides into a pause before it moves back into an inhale. We sometimes call this 4-phase breathing, where we're just really inhabiting all of these 4 stages: inhale, turnaround, the exhale, maybe a little pause, and a slide into movement again. And let's start by just noticing how smooth you could make this. And smooth, not as in we're trying to dominate and control, but really find that pleasurable quality to your own breathing. This also slows us down a little bit. And as you're working with your breath in this way, just finding the rhythm, notice what quality of attention you're bringing to your own experience in this moment. When I first started doing Feldenkrais lessons, I began to learn that for me, awareness of something and judging it was almost simultaneous. Whatever I noticed that was asymmetrical or slightly like this or a little bit in pain, I assumed it was bad and wrong. And it can be really beautiful to just begin to pay attention and suspend our meaning making and just bring some kindness and curiosity to this opportunity to get to know ourselves a little bit better today. Now, if it's comfortable for you, I'd like to invite you to bend your knees and bring your feet to be about shoulder width apart, standing on the floor, your knees up toward the ceiling or the sky. A basic underlying invitation here is to not do anything that hurts you. Or as I like to say, don't hurt yourself and then be pissed at me about it. But this invitation to take care of your experience and start in a place where you're not hurting. So we can really get under, if you're in pain, that protective mechanism can start to soften as it knows we're not going to meet it with aggression and force. What I'd like to invite you to start with is this movement of your attention. We're going to connect with this breath. So we start with attention at the crown of the head, and we're going to sort of pour your presence like a liquid downward through your head, your neck and throat, shoulders, upper torso, lower torso, pelvis, just down toward your sit bones. And then when you're exhaling, you sweep back up from your sit bones or your hip joints through your whole middle of yourself and out the top of your head. So it might take you a few breaths to find a rhythm. We're doing this kind of slightly slowed down 4-phase breathing. So we're in no hurry. And we're really sweeping this non-fixing, non-aggressive quality of presence to all these little nooks and crannies inside yourself. Bones and joints, skin, muscle tissue, fascia, sensation, just sweeping from the head down to the bottom of the pelvis and back up and out with the out breath. And one of the things we do in this lesson is, instead of breathing in to any place that feels congested or painful, we're sweeping through it and getting it connected in our brain's map of the body with all the parts that maybe aren't hurting. Really sensing the wholeness. So we're going to add a small movement to this. Only do it if you want to, which is as you're sweeping your attention downward on the inhale, you could rock your pelvis a little downward towards your feet. So maybe a little more space behind your lower back, a little more weight towards your tailbone. On the out breath phase, when your attention is sweeping up, you could rock your pelvis a little headward, slowly, slowly, maybe bringing your back a little toward flat on the floor. And let's just repeat this a few times. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of nooks and crannies and places that might not be so clear in your brain's map of your body that you can really fill out as you're sweeping your attention through like this. So when I was on the floor prepping for this lesson, the tiny movement I could do with my pelvis after this back injury was free in the opposite direction than it was yesterday. So this is where we get to be really responsive to like what feels good in this moment to what's right here. And we're committed to staying in the range that's not painful, even if that's just in your imagination. Sweeping through, especially any place that tends to feel tight or congested or even painful. You can imagine your attention moving through like this liquid. Maybe you give it a color, whatever works for you. And when you're ready, I'd like to invite you to pause the rolling of your pelvis for a moment and just slide your left leg all the way down. So the left leg is long, the right knee is bent. You can imagine like we've almost just opened up the hose. So now this flow can go not only from your head to your torso, but all through your left leg and down to your foot and toes. That's on inhale, the downward movement, and from your foot all the way through the leg and back up through the torso, out the top of the head on the out breath. So just take your time. As I said, this is a movement of attention I come back to again and again, and I'm always in awe of how much possibility there is to deepen intimacy. Like, oh, can I feel my hip joint, my thigh, the little bones in my feet as I sweep through? How about my neck and throat? Just keep sweeping. And again, with the left leg long, we're adding that part of the movement. And if there's anywhere that feels painful or congested, we're just with kindness sweeping gently through. If you get bored or distracted, just come back again when you're ready. And as always, this background question of where could I reduce some effort and increase pleasure? Maybe even reducing the effort and how tightly you're paying attention. So let's add one tiny little piece here, optional, which is the next time you breathe in and you're sweeping from the head down toward the left foot, slightly lengthen that leg. So your heel might slide a little bit away from you on the floor. It's kind of a micro movement, but it involves your whole body. Feel your waist, your ribs, your neck might even resonate, and you release the reaching as you exhale and the attention sweeps upward. And let's play with, again, finding what's the size of that movement that feels nourishing and that your body's not going to brace against. Slight sliding down, lengthening the leg, or maybe just doing that in your imagination. Mm-hmm. Let's do this for a couple more breaths, and then we'll just take a pause. So when you're ready to pause, you might either return to both legs long or both knees bent, whatever's the comfortable position for you today. And just see what you notice, if anything, and how you sense yourself. Now we're going to shift this a little bit so that you can have your arms just down at your sides or a little bit opened out to your sides, whatever's a comfortable angle for you. You can have your palms facing the ceiling, particularly on your left hand. And we're going to direct this flow through the upper quadrant of the chest and the left arm and hand. So this time, as you breathe in, you start at the crown of the head, just sweeping through head, neck, left chest and shoulder, left upper arm, elbow, forearm, wrist, hand, fingers, thumb. That's all on an in-breath. I know I'm probably talking slower than you breathe. And as you breathe out, you're sweeping from fingertips all the way, reversing that pathway out the top of the head again. It's really deepening this intimacy with the unique details of your today body. Anywhere that feels tight or congested, really focusing on sweeping through. And with this one, the next time you're coming toward the end of the inhale, you can let your fingers and thumb expand and maybe slightly lengthen that left arm. Almost like an inflatable doll, you know, you can imagine the hand opens up, and then as you breathe out and the attention is sort of retracting back up and through, your fingers can curl again. Just take your time and find a rhythm to do that with your own breath. No hurry. Maybe making sure jaw is unclenched, eyes could be soft, still feeling the support that we're held as we're doing this movement. Do this for a few more breaths. I sometimes have the image, like, as I'm doing this, like, oh, the lights are off back there by the left side of my vertebrae and my upper chest. Maybe I could sweep through and kind of turn the lights on. Whatever your blank spots are, just include those as well. And we'll just do a couple more breaths again, and then we'll pause. And when you're ready, you can just let that rest. And again, kind of check in. What do you notice is different on your two sides? And how is it just to bring this quality of mindfulness, this non-judgmental awareness to what's here in the moment? You feel more space or more aliveness, more of your three-dimensionality maybe on your left side. And let's just come back and revisit this invitation to practice bringing courageous kindness to whatever's here. You know, I'm very humble whenever I speak about pain because some of us have chronic pain that won't go away. but we can explore how we relate to it that changes our experience of it. And as Stephen Levine, who's been a really powerful teacher for me, said, someday you may have a pain that doesn't go away and then gets worse and then you die. So how are we going to meet that? We can really practice bringing this compassionate awareness to whatever is present. Okay, so as you're ready, you might bend both your knees again, so your feet are flat, knees toward the ceiling. Just come back to where we started with sweeping from the head down to the hip joints or sit bones on the inhale with the knees bent. And from the hip joints or sit bones up and out the crown of the head, maybe you go back to rolling your pelvis a little bit and notice, how is that now? So again, just to refresh, on the inhale, attention is sweeping from the head through your whole physical self down toward your sit bones. And on the out breath, from the floor of the pelvis all the way back up and out. You might rock your pelvis a little downward on the in-breath, a little upward on the out-breath, and just check in. How is that movement now? You know, I talk to and have worked with people over many years with their pain, and it's so common to hear that people are angry at the pain. And it's a big shift to move into tenderness and like, oh, sweetheart, I care about your suffering, instead of damning the painful part, you know? Okay, so as you're ready, you could let the rocking of the pelvis pause, and this time let's lengthen your right leg downward on the floor as if we're opening the hose. So this flow can go from the crown of your head through your whole torso and pelvis, through the whole right leg with great intimacy to the foot and toes, and then sweeping on the out breath from the foot back up through that whole pathway and out the top of the head. Modify as you need to so you're not in pain. So we really can get under any bracing or protective mechanism. First, take some time to find your rhythm with this four-phase breath, and really sensing the subtle details around your bones, your joints, your muscles, your skin, your fat. Like this liquid that's pouring through. And if you'd like to add a slight lengthening of the leg downward on the in-breath, you could do that if it's not painful. Feel how that invites a softening through your waist, your ribs, maybe even up in your neck and shoulders. That slight lengthening, still sensing the support of the ground. How you don't have to hold yourself up. You can let yourself be held as you're exploring this. And where might you reduce some effort or dial up the kindness, even to the resistance? Again, check in with your jaw, expression on your face. We'll do this a couple more times. This luxuriating. I love this phrase of growing more time in unburdened intimacy with oneself. Much insight can come, kind of like when we're in the shower in unburdened intimacy. Let's see what comes. When you're ready to pause, you can rest either with both legs long or bent, but kind of symmetrically, if that's all right. Taking a moment again to just check in. How am I now? For me, one of the most healing expressions of this kindness that is really fruitful to bring to pain is to say, you don't need to be any different to receive my care. And there might be some other part that really wants the pain to go away. And that part also doesn't need to be any different to receive our care. So in whatever position you'd like to have your legs, let's have the right hand turned toward the ceiling at whatever comfortable angle from your torso. And let's start to explore this pathway where we're sort of pouring this liquid of our conscious presence through the head and neck, through the right upper quadrant of your chest, through your right shoulder and arm and hand, flowing outward on the inhale, and sweeping back through on the out breath. And if you like, you can add that little movement of just opening your fingers, opening your hand, maybe even very slight reach or slide, lengthening the arm a little bit. It's on the in-breath, releasing that on the out-breath, but just really taking your time, sweeping through any tight or congested areas, growing our sense of feeling what's also not painful, what feels good or neutral. We'll do a couple more breaths and then you can let that rest. Whether you're enjoying the slow pace or you're having some wild restlessness with the slowness, that's okay. I'm thinking of the way Michael Meade, the mythologist, says, you think you need more time. You don't need more time. You need more experiences of the timeless. And this lesson, and many Feldy lessons actually, really take me there. Maybe you too. So as you're ready, you can have, if it's comfortable, both legs long. If you like better, both legs bent, your arms at your sides, maybe palms facing the ceiling. Let's just sweep through the whole body. This is my insomnia practice. So as you're ready, again on the in-breath, you're sweeping downward to the fingertips and the toe tips. And on the out-breath, reversing that pathway. What have you not noticed yet? Which parts of yourself has you not touched yet? You might want to welcome in this process. Maybe you slightly open your hands at the peak of the inhale. Just sweeping through this whole precious temporary body. Let's do a couple more breaths like this. And when you're ready to let it pause again, just notice, how am I now? Maybe we could offer toward whatever's here now a great hospitable welcome. You don't have to be different to receive my kindness. And whatever else is happening, this is happening too. Can really let ourselves have it. So in the next minute or two, I want to invite you to take your time to make a leisurely, pleasurable shift if you want to come back to the screen. If you want to stay down, feel free. If you want to come to the screen and participate a little bit in conversation, you're welcome to. If you need to tuck in for a nice nap or whatever, you're also quite welcome to. So a lot of these themes that I like to teach on and emphasize through this Feldenkrais work really dovetail with each other. So there's a lot about kindness and working with our pain, and also attentional flexibility. And I just want to show you this little illustration that I have found really helpful that I think relates a lot to this lesson. So sometimes you can see this. I can do it this way. When we're in pain, I can relate to this when I was grimacing to try to roll over in bed last week. Oh, it's like taking up all the space on the paper or in our attentional field. Part of what we're growing in this lesson is paying attention to all this other stuff and not suppressing the pain, but it can be as if it's on such a bigger paper. Same pain, just doesn't take up as much space in our brain. I just wanted to show you that. And I know some of you may need to leave. We're right around the 30-minute mark. And I have a poem I'd really love to read. So Tiffany, I don't know if you want to welcome people to leave, if I should just go ahead and read this poem. Go for it. Okay, here I go. So this came to me this morning. I had forgotten about this. And when I found this online many years ago, it just said, written by a Chinese doctor. I don't even know who that is. Online, it was not attributed, but it's called the Felt Sense Prayer. And I'll share this with Tiffany so she can post it in the notes to this class if you want to revisit it. I am the pain in your head, the knot in your stomach, the unspoken grief in your smile. I'm your high blood sugar, your elevated blood pressure, your fear of challenge, your lack of trust. I'm your hot flashes, your cold hands and feet, your agitation and your fatigue. I am your shortness of breath, your fragile low back, the cramp in your neck, the despair in your sigh. I'm the pressure on your heart, the pain down your arm, your bloated abdomen, your constant hunger. I am where you hurt, the fear that persists, your sadness of dreams unfulfilled. I'm your symptoms, the causes of your concern, the signs of imbalance, your condition of dis-ease. I promise this is going to get inspiring in a moment. I'm not just going to take you in the downward spiral forever. Here we go. You tend to disown me, suppress me, ignore me, inflate me, coddle me, condemn me. I'm not coming forth for myself, as I'm not separate from all that is you. I come to garner your attention, to enjoin your embrace, so I can reveal my secrets. I have only your best interests at heart as I seek health and wholeness by simply announcing myself. Usually you want me to go away immediately, to disappear, to slink back into obscurity. You mostly are irritated or frightened and many times shocked by my arrival. From this stance, you medicate in order to eradicate me. Ignoring me, not exploring me, is your preferred response. More times than not, I'm only the most recent notes of a long symphony, the most evident branches of roots that have been challenged for seasons. So I implore you, I am a messenger with good news, as disturbing as I can be at times. I'm wanting to guide you back to those tender places in yourself, the place where you can hold yourself with compassion and honesty. If you look beyond my appearance, you may find that I am a voice from your soul, calling to you from places deep within that seek your conscious alignment. I may ask you to alter your diet, get more sleep, exercise regularly, breathe more consciously. I might encourage you to see a vaster reality and worry less about the day-to-day fluctuations. I may ask you to explore the bonds and the wounds of your relationships. I may remind you to be more generous and expansive, or to attend to protecting your heart from insult. I might have you laugh more, spend more time in nature, eat when you're hungry, and less when pained or bored. Spend time every day, if only for a few minutes, being still. Wherever I lead you, my hope is you will realize that success will not be measured by my eradication, but by the shift in the internal landscape from which I emerge. I'm your friend, not your enemy. I have no desire to bring pain and suffering into your life. I'm simply tugging at your sleeve, too long immune to gentle nudges. My desire is for you to allow me to speak to you in a way that enlivens your higher instincts for self-care. We're almost done. My charge is to energize you to listen to me with the sensitive ear and heart of a mother attending to her precious baby. You are a being so vast, so complex, with amazing capacities for self-regulation and healing. Let me be one of the harbingers that lead you to the mysterious core of your being, where insight and wisdom are naturally available when called upon with a sincere heart. And as I said, we'll share that with you. And before I open it up to hear from you, I also want to say last week when I was in the throes of my super agony, couldn't sit, could barely roll over, my husband, who's also a Feldenkrais practitioner, with good humor said, "Hey, you finding any gifts in that pain?" And I said, "Shut up." That's all I had in the moment. Meta theme later, yes. Just to say it can be challenging in the moment. So don't want to pretend that's not also true. There's something I appreciate, which is, and I learned this from Buddhist tradition I've been practicing in for a long time, which is, also when pain comes up, whether we're calling it physical or emotional or somewhere in the hyphen of the word body mind, that it can be really beautiful. I think the habitual response is to feel why me and very alone and isolated in our particular pain. And then to say at night when I'm in bed with this intense back pain, to think of how many other people around the planet right now are in pain of some kind. And can I bring compassion to all of that? And then suddenly I'm connected and compassionate in community. It's another way of expanding this, from this is all me to like, wow, and to hold us all. And then that also helps me feel not alone and in company with a lot of others. I've been thinking about this conversation is also so interesting when we deem it physical or emotional, or I love that image of we're in the hyphen in the word body mind, it's like, it's all of it. I'm remembering that Moshe Feldenkrais said, in working with his own knee pain, he said, I needed to change my personality almost more than my knee, like how he was meeting his own pain and experience. And so this is deep work. It's really deep. And I'm so grateful for it and grateful for you being here today.